I'm looking away from the screen. That's just because I'm getting my laptop set up so I can look at the chat. This time I actually have the curtains permanently mounted up on curtain rods instead of haphazardly pinned up with push pins the way it was before. Just want to test real quick. I also have two mice that I'm dealing with. I basically can't use a computer without a mouse. I know, I'm old-fashioned like that. Give me 1 second, I need to go over to the intermission screen for just a minute. Okay, I'm back. Just had to put my lipstick on, nothing serious. Are you guys able to hear me? Because YouTube's saying that my my audio bitrate is lower than recommended, but let's see. Oh yeah, and yes, I did get a horn mod, so now I can actually give accurate horns to some of these diesel locomotives. I put an A200 on this SD7 just because it feels right. So I started a new save, same railroad name as I had before, Blue Ridge Southern, which, if you don't know, that's the name of one of the rail short lines that's in that area, but it's a good name, so I went with it. I'm trying to go for a very Atlantic coastline style aesthetic here. You see some of my passenger cars, you'll see exactly what I mean. Also, I finally got the Chicago Northwestern commuter cars to work. I don't have any captive coal traffic yet because I haven't built up to Robinson Gap yet. Basically what I did was I started a new company mode save. And I basically used cheat codes to get basically to most of where I am now. Actually, look at my milestones. I gave myself a lot of money. Excuse me. And anyway, I like money. And also to allow me to take care of all of this. Then I have some that are in progress. This one's currently in progress. I believe the last cars of this phase are being unloaded. Once I get all the industries served, then I'll start on the bridge at Bryson. But currently I'm running from the yard at Addy out to Fontana. You might be asking, well, why not the main line? I kind of like the Fontana branch, to be honest. I haven't played with it as much as I'd like to. Really, the biggest industry in the railroad right now that I'm serving is the steel mill. I thought about getting the cement plant, but I want to know if that conflicts with the Jackson branch mod, because it kind of looks like it might. If anyone knows that, please let me know. Usually what I do with long cuts of cars in an industry like this is I set the handbrakes on all of them. I bought this SD7 just because I needed something more powerful than the two starter engines. So the current interchanges I have running are I have Addy interchange active, I have Silva, and then I have this one at the steel mill. You can see there's a lot of cars I'm dealing with here. I'm still switching all these, but I figured that excuse me, I just ate dinner not too long ago. I figured that I'll get the cars for the mill put away before I deal with these others, just so I can create some room. You see 1401. That's a P48 Pacific, which is, if I remember correctly, based off of the Southern's PS4. No, not that PS4. The one that's at the Smithsonian. At least I think that's the right one. Another thing I got here is a mod that lets me decide which interchange certain industries get their cars through. I'm really only using it just so the steel mill cars come through the mill yard. Anyway, while that runs, we're gonna... Oh yeah, this is another major mod that I got. This is one of the ones that redoes the whole Bryson engine terminal to make it a much bigger shop. God, my FPS is terrible while this thing is loading. I don't know if you guys can see, it's like right at the bottom. There's a tiny text at the bottom of the screen. Sixteen, 17 FPS. Ouch. 6, 12. Yeah, you kind of get the point. I actually don't need to have Google Chrome open on my desktop. Just going through everything and just basically killing everything I don't need. Hopefully that helps. Okay, I always get a little bit scared when it freezes like that, because sometimes it does that and then it crashes. But all these cars in here, I also have the used equipment marketplace modification, so I can go and buy used equipment, which is what all of this is. A lot of these need a full overhaul. I figured I might as well just use it because that is something that a Shoreline would probably do. So I'll go ahead and oil my bearings while the train's sitting in the station here. But these are those Chicago Northwestern coaches that I've been trying to get to work for like a long time. I love these things. Granted, I'm biased because as some of you know, I used to volunteer at the Illinois Railway Museum, where we have one of these. Actually, a couple of them now that I think of it. And also, I was born and raised here in South Carolina, but I lived for 7 years in the Midwest, and once you live in the Midwest once, you can never get it out of you. I know people from Jersey say that about Jersey, but it's true for the Midwest too. That express car is probably going to end up going east a little bit later. Bryson's performing a little bit worse than it normally would, just because I have all this equipment here right now. Once I get the passenger train moving, that should take care of at least some of it. I have not activated Fontana Interchange yet. I want to get more engines up and running before I do that. So that is just going to run over to Fontana. So a little bit of a history lesson regarding the Fontana branch. At least to some extent, that actually was a real branch line for a while. And the reason it no longer exists is also the same reason why it was built, and that's that it was built to help build the Fontana Lake Dam, which is one of the largest dams in the eastern part of this country. And let's just say it was very controversial when it was built, and rightfully so. But basically, the area in the game where that branch is, and where it was in real life, is all now underwater. There's a few ghost towns in that area that you could... I don't know if they allow diving on that lake. I probably wouldn't. There's probably some stuff still up there underwater. Probably not from the railroad, but just from the towns that got flooded. Generally, people don't tend to like it when you flood their town. Excuse me. The federal government largely got away with it because the project happened to be during World War II and it was for an aluminum plant. If it were peacetime, that proposal almost certainly would have been killed fairly quickly. I hear Fontana Lake is nice to visit. I haven't been there myself. I've driven through this area many times. Nowadays, I-40 runs a little bit north of here. last few years for Western North Carolina has honestly been pretty rough. And usually the inland areas don't tend to get hit by hurricanes, but of course there was Hurricane Helene a few years back that took out I-40, took out pretty much all of the old Clinchfield. This line was in pretty bad shape. Well, obviously it's nothing like it is in the game, but you know what I mean. It actually took a very long time to restore rail service to Western North Carolina after the storm. I was down here in Charleston when Helene hit, and because it went inland, we didn't get an evacuation order down here. That if we evacuated upstate like we normally would for a hurricane, that would have been the end of us. But like I was saying, usually when a hurricane comes, we evacuate upstate. When Helene came through, it was the other way around. I still remember how it created these massive traffic jams on I-26, because it happened that when Helene came through also coincided with our regular tourist season. Which really, to put it lightly, did not help. It was actually hard for people escaping the storm to try and get hotel rooms, because, like I said, it was tourist season. Anyway, I'll go with a slightly less dark subject. So, this is about as close as I could get to the Atlantic Coastline's heavyweight passenger locomotive paint scheme. I mean, passenger car paint scheme, I should say. For that type of equipment, and then this is what I got for this type. All my Streamline passenger cars are all going to be silver. So we're going to try and put all these locomotives into the... Actually, we're going to see if we can fit them all into the overhaul. No. Waypoints don't work on turntables in this game. So we're going to have to do it manually. I have to redo this real quick. Bryson repair track overhaul, yep. Okay, so we cannot fit both on the turntable. So 23 is going to run around here and eventually push the engine in. That is kind of the challenge of having engines that are basically dead like this. Which, when you get these used engines from the interchange, there's no coal and no water in them. So that runs around will spin the turntable around. I honestly think this mod makes this area look a lot better than the vanilla game. I mean, if you've looked at it as many pictures of engine service facilities in the Steam era as I have, Actually, one of the first things you notice in a lot of these is the ballast. The ballast was never clean. Most often, railroads tended to use cinders from engines as their ballast. Not just an engine turbo, but just the yards in general, which is what they try to do here. Also, these double slip switches are a big godsend, so thank you to the person who created that mod. And yes, there already is an engine in this stall, but there's room for another. Excuse me. These are... Well, these are the dedicated overhaul stalls. Also, if you're not aware, the C&O T1 that's available as a mod does not fit on the turntables in the game. Until somebody creates a longer turntable, that is. But as far as I know, that hasn't happened yet. Actually, while that runs, I'm actually gonna Google it real quick. Or I should say, search on Nexus. Let's see if we have. I might install the RTM turntable enhancer. After. Not right now, but after. Well, after this. After the stream. Just by the way, I don't know exactly how long I'm going to be able to stream tonight. I'm actually kind of waiting. Long story short, I have to take my car to the shop for a routine inspection. It's not legally required, but I want to make sure that my car isn't going to like die on me. So I'm waiting for the person I'm relying on for a ride to be available. My rule of thumb is I change the paint on these engines when they're finished with their overhaul, or near enough. Same thing for the rolling stock. Looks like I will have to push these other engines into regular stalls instead of the dedicated overhaul stalls. This is a good perspective for you. Gives you an idea of how big these engines are, even relatively small ones like the switches. So I'm currently at 40. Currently hovering around 40 FPS. And I would just drop down to like 20. That's probably because all the equipment is over that way. Which is even weirder because there's more stuff this way. All this stuff except for this caboose is all supposed to go in for an overhaul. It's just waiting for the space to clear up. I'm still buying smaller engines too. Just because, you know, especially as the railroad expands, there's going to be a lot of places that these are going to be really useful, like if any of you guys are model railroaders, you might know the saying, there's a prototype for everything. And that is very much true. Sometimes you see old 440s like this being used as actually industrial switchers. I'm going to see if I can fit both of these onto the same track. If any of you guys saw some of my previous streams, I was running basically a commuter service. I am not going to start running push-pull until I expand the railroad to Asheville, which I think I'm going to try and take my expansion slower this time. I'm not really committing to any one save at this point with... From what I have heard, with the maintenance of way update is basically going to the maintenance of way update that's upcoming is likely to basically require a new save to implement anyway. So I'm basically figuring out what the heck I'm doing before I end up with the new update, basically throwing my save in the trash. Yes, I do manually save pretty frequently, and that's just because there's... Well, let me just put it this way. This game crashes a lot. It is still in beta, definitely. Open beta, more or less. Unfortunately, I'm not likely to be able to stream as much as I used to in the future, because I'm starting school on the 15th of this month. So that's going to be 4 days a week. So that's already a pretty big commitment. I'll probably try and do once a week. It'll probably be something like maybe playing Railroader while I do my schoolwork or something like that. I'm majoring in cybersecurity, so as time goes on, I'm expecting there to be a lot more work that's going to have to be done with that. And of course, I'll see where things go in the future, because I don't necessarily know myself. I'm not actually even going to know my class schedule until actually way later. Some of these freight cars finished. There's enough repair parts here that I can basically take care of all of it. I'm able to set this so fast because I have the money in game, and and the repair parts present to actually do it. Everything over here is going to take way longer to get going, but almost all of the engine service places that I have so far, except for Silva Interchange and a couple others, currently have at least some equipment there. I have to order cars for the Osprey branch. Oh wait, I already did. Duh. I do check this every so often. The only reason I'm not getting those SD40-2s is because they're a little bit late for the Aeron modeling. That one coil car that's sitting at Bryson Yard, I just got that because I just thought it's a really cheap car. And the game I was going to see if I could fix it up and sell it. I already did that with a different car. But I'm kind of trying to keep everything roughly 50s era here, maybe early 60s at the latest. The Hopper's having some later road names is I can put up with that. Silva Building Supply. I can put that anywhere in the consoles with that cut. This is the way I typically do a lot of my switching from interchanges, at least mid-railroad interchanges. They'll basically separate into eastbound and westbound cuts. We do not have CTC yet. I do intend to enable that as soon as the milestone finishes. Now we're going to go back to Bryson, if it loads, and service these and start servicing the industries here. These are cars that came in with the very early morning interchange. So both of these are going to the unloading track. These are cars for the Fontana branch. So those are just going to sit there until I can get a westbound train to pick those up, and westbound local freight basically. I also have the West Bryson mod. So I haven't activated any of those industries. I'll activate them once I have all the current ones taken care of. This loads. I'm using engine number 1 here as basically the switcher for the Whittier area. How long I'm going to be able to do that, I am not sure. That passenger car is just going to sit there for a while. I don't really need it yet. Now I'm going to stable that engine right here. Now I'm going to show how I'm going to show my little cheat sheet here. So what I just did was I set my game mode to sandbox, so I could do things like, say I'm going to reload this car of repair parts. Unfortunately, I can't figure out how to turn off the. I have too many waybills, and that's opened by the O key. I don't know how to get it to. I don't know why it does that, but. I always have to remember to set it back to company mode when I finish, because if I don't, then it screws up my milestones. I can speed this up. Let's just say it's going to be a little bit before anything else here is ready for service. One feature I really do love about this game is that it does visually change the condition of worn out equipment. Notice the tenders got worked on faster than the engines did. On larger railroads, what they used to do was, when a tender was fixed faster than an engine, they just put the tender with another engine that needed to go and deal with the problem later, basically. I think there is a mod where you can uncouple tenders, but I don't feel like opening that can of worms right now. This lone SD7 at one point hauled about over 3,000 tons, so I'm not worried about its ability to haul. Basically, until I get some of the larger steamers fixed up, this SD7 is basically my road engine, with engine 2 also going into that role more for local freight work, serving line-side industries between the major towns. Deselect incoming. Obviously, Silva. I haven't served the interchange yet. However you pronounce this town, that also has some cars that need to be switched, but I don't have a switcher there yet, so. I will say that the Too Many Waybills mod is definitely a very nice thing to have. Because it basically, I check it every so often and I just make sure I didn't just randomly forget about a car somewhere. I'm going to go prototypical here and put these, and put the ramps down. It's hard to model this in the game, but these trailers would actually be hauled off of these flat cars and driven off. Intermodal cranes actually weren't that common back then. I'm going to briefly go over to my intermission screen for just a minute. I am back. Just hello, Keith. Sorry, I was AFK for a minute. Just had to deal with some stuff around the house. So we got all the current cars to the piggyback terminal. Now we're gonna take this one Santa Fe boxcar down to Appalachian Hardwoods. And one we can basically dismiss that for now. I did forget to grab the caboose when I brought 1002 down here, so we're gonna send that back to just grab the caboose off the end of, not that caboose that's white, that's one that's going into the shop. We're going to grab this one. Yeah, that is that's actually a Rutland prototype caboose, but it's pretty typical for what you'd see in this era. Wooden passenger cars were largely phased out, at least in mainline service, by the late 1930s. They made a comeback during World War II because there was a need just to utilize every piece of equipment possible. But pretty much as soon as the war was over, on most Class 1 railroads, wooden passenger cars were on their way out. Wooden cabooses stayed for a lot longer, though. There were some, even a few Class 1s that were still using wooden cabooses, or at least wooden-sided cabooses, well into the 1960s and 70s. And they stayed around on short lines even longer. Which is actually why there's so many of them in preservation. They do take a good bit of work to maintain, and I know that because I worked on one. Up at IRM, there's a Pensy Bobber caboose. I don't remember the number of it off the top of my head. I helped out a bit with that restoration. But the wood siding on those, it's very time consuming to redo. So you can see why railroads got rid of them eventually. But they didn't really see that. It was more a case of that the cars were gradually retired as they kind of came of age anyway, rather than being deliberately replaced like passenger cars, like wooden passenger cars were. This caboose is very well detailed. I also have this mod that puts different tenders with different engines, which sometimes the results look pretty typical, like well, not this, that's the default tender. So, anyway, sometimes the results look normal, other times they can look ridiculous. Like, I mean, you can have a gigantic engine with a comically small tender, or vice versa. I'm doing good tonight, Pete. Thanks for asking. And how are you doing? I will say that with the Silva Central Station mod, that really does actually make passenger service profitable. There is I don't know if there's some kind of mod conflict somewhere that's preventing passenger stations being recognized, but I can deal with it. This movement is allowed to proceed without a caboose because it's within yard limits. And I consider Bryson yard limits to be I would consider the west edge of yard limits to be, well, I don't have the main line here built yet, but currently what western edge of yard limits I would say is about right at this curve. I apologize for the slow performance of my PC right now. I'm gonna open Task Manager and see if there's anything else I can kill. See if that helps. I disabled preview in OBS, so maybe hopefully that'll help at least a little bit. See, R1 and R2. I know exactly where I'm going to put that car. That sighting going into the road like that, it's not intentional. I don't know how to fix it. The sighting is part of the West Bryson mod, so I think I'll let the mod creator know about it. UFPS, that is bad. Set the handbrake on that engine. So now we grab the caboose. Head back to the steel mill. That's actually the thing that makes this game a little bit frustrating to play as a single player, and that is specifically just how poorly it performs. I wouldn't go too hard against the devs for that. They are a small team, but as excited as I am for the maintenance of the update, I do wish they optimized the game a little bit better before they start focusing on it. Okay, I'm just gonna have to accept being flat-handed. It's a little bit weird for now. I'm only going a couple of miles. There's going to be signals here eventually. Like I said, with CTC. That requires activating CTC features. We should actually be getting our first signals fairly soon. These cars are close to being done unloading. Signals Whittier to Bryson. Signals Thomas Family. Oh, okay, I have to complete the signals here first. Okay, that makes sense. So I think for milestones, the two things I'm going to be focusing on for now are getting signals built. Okay, I am going to have to end the stream. I have to go and drop my car off at the shop, so thanks so much for tuning in, and